In the dread desert, beneath the moon's pale gaze, dead men walk. They haunt the shifting dunes of the breathless, windless night, and brandish weapons of bronze in mocking challenge and bitter resentment of the life they no longer possess. And sometimes, in ghastly dry voices, like the rustling of sun-baked reeds, they whisper the one word they remember from life, the name of the one who cursed them to their existence. More than death, but less than life. They whisper the name, Nagash. What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to talk to you about Warhammer. Cross out the 40k, because today it's all about Age of Sigmar. Today we are talking about none other than the god of death, the hateful and ancient Nagash. Now, Nagash is a great necromancer who is as powerful on the tabletop as he is in the lore. And that's something to take with a lot of salt, because this dude is not cheap at all. He is pretty pricey, but he does have a ton of abilities. So I wanted to make this video for a few reasons. One, to showcase my Age of Sigmar army. Two, to talk about Nagash's lore. And three, to talk about his abilities on the table. So you guys have been asking for more Age of Sigmar stuff. Well, a few of you have been. So this is the one video to see the reception and overall just to see what you guys are thinking about Age of Sigmar during the month of Spooktober. And my army fits perfectly since, like I said, they are the legions of the Night Hunt, the ghosts of Age of Sigmar. So recently I got myself a model of Nagash for, like I said, a few reasons. First and foremost was because I needed a leader for my Age of Sigmar army, and he is just so powerful, so amazing. I mean, I do have HQs and whatnot, like the Mortarch of Death, Lady Allender, the Craven King, but I wanted to actually have Nagash because the model is so epic. Two, speaking of the model, I really love Catan. You guys probably know this already, and I wanted to have the Nightbringer as a playable Catan that I could field. However, the sculpt for the Nightbringer is kind of small looking, and yeah, he looks pretty badass with like his scythe and like his Grim Reaper style, but Nagash is so better looking in my opinion. And my playgroup is very lax with like proxying and whatnot, so I decided to go ahead and get this guy as the Nightbringer, the Catan. And if you've been paying attention to the Nightbringer, he is a beast on the battlefield. And lastly, I got him because I'm doing a mini Halloween campaign for D&D with my buddies, and Nagash is gonna be a very important character, I guess you can say. He's gonna be a powerful necromancer slash lich that the party will be facing sooner or later. So yeah, that's why I ended up getting the model for Nagash, and boy oh boy is it quite the model. I can't stress that enough. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you the actual stats and whatnot before diving into his lore. So, going into it, he has a 9-inch movement, 16 wounds. That's a lot, with a 10 bravery and a 3-up save. Now, Nagash is able to fly, which is a huge benefit because he's a big model, so being able to move over terrain and whatnot is really important. On top of this, he has both powerful melee capabilities as well as ranged, aka missile abilities. So he has the Gaze of Nagash, which is only a single attack, but a 12-inch range that has a 3 to hit, 2 to wound, -1 rend, dealing 6 damage. This reminds me a lot of the Nightbringer, because the Nightbringer had an ability called the Gaze of Death. This replaces death with Nagash, and that's pretty much the same thing. He also has the Alakanash, which is a range 3, 1 attack, 3 to hit, 2 to wound, -3 to rend, d6 damage. So melee and at range, he can potentially do 6 damage. But it doesn't end there. He has 2 more melee capabilities with the Nefet Nebtar, which can potentially do 3 damage, and you have spectral claws and daggers from the ghosts around him, which only do 1 damage, but hey, it's better than nothing. So with the Nagash, the staff that I mentioned earlier, he can do a little bit more than just hit with it. He can then attempt to cast both Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield with it, and these are some pretty good spells. Arcane Bolt has a casting value of 5, but if you get it activated, you select an enemy unit within 18 of the caster that you can see, and just automatically that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If your casting roll was a 10 or more, you then take D3 mortal wounds. While Mystic Shield is really good when you're rolling a lot of 1s. It's a casting value of 6. You basically pick a friendly unit within 18 inches of the caster that you can see, and you get to reroll save wounds of 1. So potential wounds saved is great. So yeah, the staff is a very important ability when you're very heavily focused on casting. Speaking of casting, he can do 3 spells in the hero phase, and he can try to unbind 3 in the enemy hero phase. But that's not where it ends. This dude's got the 9 books of Nagash, which allow him to do extra casts and extra unbinds. All of this revolves around his table, which is bracketed, so depending on how many wounds he has left, I can't speak today, that's how many spells he can cast and unbind extra. So if he's down to 0 to 3 wounds, he can cast and unbind 5 extra spells. Now if you have the Staff of Power on him, you could do up to 3 more casts or unbind. So yeah, Nagash is really good. So let's continue on with more of his war gear and weapons, continuing with the Arcane, which is armor that is fused with his body, and it protects him both from physical and arcane damage. How this works on the battlefield is that you roll a die each time you allocate a mortal wound to this model. On a 1 to 3, nothing happens. On a 4 to 5 though, the mortal wound is negated, and if you roll that 6, not only is it negated, but the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound, essentially rebounding off the armor and striking back the enemy that tried to defy the might of Nagash. Now earlier I talked about those ghosts that he has around him. Well, they can do a frightful touch. Any unmodified hit roll for an attack with those spectral claws and daggers, if it's a 6, then you do an extra mortal wound on the target. Really good. Really good, especially if you're rolling hot. Now, he's not called the Lord of Death for nothing. He's got the Invocation of Nagash, which allows him to heal either summonable friendly units or friendly Ossiarch Bone Reapers. You can either heal up to 3 wounds or bring back 3 models that have been slain. Pretty big and huge buffs in my opinion. And speaking of healing, he himself has a magic ability called Soul Stealer, which allows him to siphon souls from the living to heal his own wounds. It's got a casting value of 6, and if you get it off, you pick an enemy unit within 24 inches that you can see and roll 2d6. If that roll is greater than the unit's bravery, they take d3 mortal wounds, and if the roll is at least double that, they suffer d6 mortal wounds. No matter what you get, you then get to heal up 1 wound that has been allocated to the caster for each mortal wound inflicted by this spell that isn't negated. Really good. And then finally, his last magical ability is the Hand of Dust, a hand that can wither and age any mortal, turning them to a mere pile of dusty bones. So it's a bit higher to cast with a value of 8, but if you do get it off, you get to pick an enemy model within 3 of the caster. You then take a die and you hide it in one of your hands. Your opponent then must pick one of your hands, and if they pick the one holding the die, nothing happens. But if that 50-50 chance is in your favor, then the enemy model, poof, is slain, just like that. So very gimmicky. I could see this going wrong in so many ways. But if it goes off, it is great. Just easily turning anything you want into dust is really, really good. And finally, we'll end with his command ability, which is the Supreme Lord of the Undead. You can use this command ability during your hero phase as long as he's on the battlefield, and if you do, until your next hero phase, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly death units. You can also reroll save wounds of 1 for attacks that target friendly death units, and you do not take battle shock tests for friendly death units. I mean, what do you have to fear when the Lord of Death is fighting right beside you? So huge buff to your army. The only downside is the point value. Now, we've seen Mortarian's points, Gilliman's points, the Void Dragon points, and they're like, upper 200s, with the Void Dragon being 350, right? That's a pretty hefty price to pay for a Catan, a star god. Now, Nagash, just without, pause the video and guess how many points Nagash is. Alright? 3, 2, 1. Nagash is 850 points. That's it. 850 freaking points. That is crazy, stupid, expensive. Now, if you recall all the abilities that I read, all the spells he can cast, the instant reroll, if you have a 50-50 chance of instantly deleting anything, being able to fly, like 16 wounds. This guy is strong, right? But 850 points, that's just stupid. Yeah, I definitely need you guys to let me know if you have ever used Nagash. Is he worth it? Because if he is, I'm definitely going to be using him in a lot of battles. I'm at least going to use him once because I got to try him out. But 850 points? Damn. Like, usually when we play Age of Sigmar battles, it's like 1250, 1500. Like, this dude's more than half of that. Almost 3/4, depending on how much you're playing. So, really stupid expensive. But, yeah. And that's where I will end the video for today. So first and foremost, let me know what you guys thought about Nagash. If you've used him in games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, how has he played? And let me know if you guys want more videos on Age of Sigmar. It fit the theme of Spooktober this month, so keep subscribed for more creepypastas and overall more Warhammer videos. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.